Okay. Okay. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Thank you so much for joining. Deepji, Namo Buddhaya, and Namo Buddhaya, Sandhya ji. Happy Basant Panchami to you and happy Valentine's Day also. Namo Buddhaya. So we start our session and we start the session with 15 minutes Anapansati. So let us start. Make yourself comfortable and we sit comfortably, keeping our spine straight. We bring our awareness to the breathing. We become aware of the in and out breath. You can keep your attention on the belly area or the nostrils area, whatever works for you. And we do not change the pattern of the breathing. Every time mind gets lost in thoughts, sensations, you know, we come back gently as we remember that our mind got lost. We come back to our breathing. And that is what mindfulness in Pali, the word is sati also, and it is also smriti, right? The root word is smriti. Smriti means remembering, recalling, coming back, right? So it's mindfulness of breathing. So let us start. Close your eyes, make yourself comfortable. Let me just put a timer for 15 minutes. Close your eyes, or you can keep your eyes half closed. Gently bring your awareness to your breathing. If the clothes are tight, you can loosen them. Be comfortable. Keep your awareness on the breath. In breath, out breath. Full awareness on the breathing. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Keep your awareness on the breathing. The mind gets lost, bring it back to the breathing. Keep coming back to your breathing. In breath, out breath. Do not change the pattern of the breathing. Your mind gets distracted, bring it back to the breathing gently and keep being aware of the in and out breath. Some difficult memories or painful feelings emerge. Recognize them and gently move back to your breathing. Keep breathing. Full attention on the breathing. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Complete attention on the breathing. Keep your attention on the breathing. Keep your attention on the breathing. In breath, out breath. Complete awareness on the breathing. If the mind gets distracted, bring it back to the breathing. Bring yourself back to the breathing. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. Total awareness on the breathing. And we close the meditation now. Whenever you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes, can stretch a little, and so now we continue the book reading. And what we are reading from is from this book. This is the book Old Path, White Clouds by Thich Nhat Hanh. Uh, Today we continue the reading from this book. We are still on the chapter Treasure of Insight. And there is this, the story that we could not continue yesterday, and which is the crab story. So I'm reading from the last paragraph so that we get the perspective. The next morning, when the bhikkhus were out begging, I hope, yeah, the voice is clear. Okay. Next morning, when the bhikkhus were out begging, they encountered a group of children playing by the rice paddies. The children had caught a crab, which one boy held down with his forefinger. With the other hand, he ripped one of the crab's claws off. The other children clapped their hands and squealed. Pleased with their reaction, the boy ripped the other claw off. Then he tore all of the crab's legs off one by one. He tossed the crab back into the paddy and caught another one. When the children saw the Buddha and the bhikkhus arrive, they bowed their hands and then returned to tormenting the next crab. The Buddha told the children to stop. He said, Children, if someone ripped off your arm or leg, would it hurt? Yes, teacher, the children answered. Did you know that the crabs feel pain just as you do? The children did not answer. The Buddha continued, The crab eats and drinks just like you. It has parents, brothers, and sisters. When you make it suffer, you make its family suffer as well. Think about what you are doing. The children appeared sorry for what they had done. Seeing that the other villagers had gathered around to see what he and the children were talking about, the Buddha used this occasion to offer a teaching about compassion. He said, Every living being deserves to enjoy a sense of security and well being. We should protect life and bring happiness to others. All living beings, whether large or small, whether two legged or four legged, whether swimmers or flyers, have the right to live. We should not harm or kill other living beings. We should protect life. Children, just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, we should open our hearts to protect all living beings. Our love should encompass every living being on, below, within, or outside or around us. Day and night, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, we should dwell in that love. Okay. Buddha asked the children to release the crab they had caught. Then he told everyone, meditating on love in this way brings happiness first to the one who practices it. You sleep better and wake up more at ease. You do not have nightmares. You are neither sorrowful nor anxious, and you are protected by everyone and everything around you. Those people and beings you bring into your mind of love and compassion bring you great joy, and slowly their suffering leaves them. Swasti knew it's called bodhicitta, cultivating a mind of love. And this is what so it's all the experiments with mindfulness that we do. One of the experiments that I am doing is that my natural state of mind is like a dry mind, right? It's like a dry mind which gets filled with hatred, anger, lust, all these things from time to time, because given the tendencies that I have. So what I do and try is that cultivating this mind of love, filling the mind with love, right? Even for brief moments, right? Which is basically cultivating a mind of love. It's like just an experiment I do at times, uh, rather than having a kind of dry mind, cultivating a mind of love, and then extending that state, extending that mind, that state that I've cultivated of compassion long. And what does it pertain to? Which of the Noble Eightfold Paths it pertain to? It pertains to right effort. That means preventing wrong states from, uh, unwholesome states from arising, abandoning unwholesome states that have arisen, trying to arise, right, the wholesome states. And if the wholesome state has arisen, trying that they get elongate. This is the work that we have to do within our mind. Just some effort we can do in this direction. This is the practice that you have to follow. Okay. So Swasti knew that the Buddha was committed to sharing the teachings with children. To help with that, he and Rahul organized special classes for children at Jetavana. Rahul organized special classes for children at Jetavana uh, with the assistance of young laypersons, especially Sudatta's four children. The young people gathered for special teaching once a month. Sudatta's son Kala was not very enthusiastic at first about attending. He only did so because he was fond of Swasti. But little by little, his interest grew. Princess Vajiri, the king's daughter, also lent her support to these classes. One full moon day, she asked the children to bring flowers to offer to the Buddha. The children arrived with flowers picked from their own gardens and from the fields along the way to the monastery. Princess Vajiri brought an armful of lotus flowers she had gathered from the palace's lotus pool. When she and the children went to find the Buddha at his hut, they learned he was in the Dhamma hall preparing to give a discourse to both the bhikkhus and laypersons. The princess led the children quietly into the hall. All the adults moved to make a pathway for the children. They placed their flowers on a small table in front of the Buddha and then bowed. The Buddha smiled and bowed in return. He invited the children to sit right in front of him. The Buddha's Dhamma talk that day was most special. He waited for the children to be seated quietly, and then he slowly stood up. He picked up one of the lotus flowers and held it up before the community. He did not say anything. Everyone sat perfectly still. The Buddha continued to hold up the flower without saying anything for a long time. The people were perplexed and wondered what he meant by doing that. Then the Buddha looked out over the community and smiled. He said, I have the eyes of the true Dhamma, the treasure of wondrous insight, and I have just transmitted it to Mahakasapa. So this is actually a very, very beautiful moment. And as I'm reading this book, I didn't know that these things are there. So I'm like, I'm coming across this thing. Mahakasapa was one of the senior disciples. So Buddha looked at that lotus flower and smiled, and Kasapa also smiled because he realized that that knowledge got transmitted. And what was that knowledge? Any one of you may know or can share. That knowledge was of Zen. So this was the knowledge. Looking at that flower, when you look at flower, you look at everything, seeing things as they are. This is actually the knowledge of Zen that then got passed down, and through Bodhidharma and others, it became the whole tradition of Zen. So that was that moment where it started. It's a beautiful thing. Everyone turned to look at Venerable Kassapa and saw that he was smiling. His eyes had not wavered from the Buddha and the lotus he held. When the people looked back at the Buddha, again, just holding it here, again, what Buddha says is, I'm just repeating that I have the eyes of the true Dhamma. Why? Because Buddha's mind was so concentrated. So, whole purpose of being mindful moment after moment is making the mind concentrated. Only through a concentrated mind can we see things as they are, get the insight. When we see things as they are, we get the insight. Otherwise, the mind scattered, you cannot do anything, cannot get any insight. Right? So that's why development of mind is very, very, very important thing. Right? Okay. Everyone turned to look at Venerable Kassapa and saw that he was smiling. His eyes had not wavered from the Buddha and the lotus he held. When the people looked back at the Buddha, they saw that he too was looking at the lotus and smiling. Though Swasti felt perplexed, he knew that the most important thing was to maintain mindfulness. He began to observe his breath. He began to observe his breath as he looked at the Buddha. And this is something we can all do at all times, right? Whatever work we are doing, keep some attention within, keep some attention to our breath. The white lotus in the Buddha's hand had newly blossomed. The Buddha held it in the most gentle, noble gesture. His thumb and forefinger held the stem of the flower, which trailed the shape of his hand. His hand was as beautiful as the lotus itself, pure and wondrous. Suddenly, Swasti truly saw the pure and noble beauty of the flower. There was nothing to think about. Quite naturally, a smile arose on his face. The Buddha began to speak. Friends, this flower is a wondrous reality. As I hold the flower before you, you all have a chance to experience it. Making contact with the flower is to make contact with this wondrous reality. It is making contact with life itself. Mahakassapa smiled before anyone else because he was able to make contact with the flower. As long as obstacles remain in your minds, you will not be able to make contact with the flower. Some of you asked yourselves, why is Gautama holding that flower up? Right? He's because he knows how minds work. Some of you asked yourself, why is Gautama holding that flower up? What is the meaning of his gesture? If your minds are occupied with such thoughts, you cannot truly experience the flower. Friends, being lost in thoughts is one of the things that prevents us from making true contact with life. If you are ruled by worry, frustration, anxiety, anger, or jealousy, you will lose the chance to make real contact with all the wonders of life. Friends, the lotus in my hand is only real to those of you. This is so beautiful, this line. Friends, the lotus in my hand is only real to those of you who dwell mindfully in the present moment. If you do not return to the present moment, the flower does not truly exist. There are people who can pass through a forest of sandalwood trees without ever seeing really one tree. Life is filled with suffering, but it also contains many wonders. Be aware in order to see both suffering and the wonders in life. Being in touch with suffering does not mean to become lost in it. Being in touch with the wonders of life does not mean to lose ourselves in them either. Being in touch is to truly encounter life, to see it deeply. If we directly encounter life, we will understand its interdependent and impermanent nature. Thanks to that, we will no longer lose ourselves in desire, anger, and craving. We will dwell in freedom and liberation. Swasti felt happy. He was glad he had smiled and understood before the Buddha spoke. Venerable Mahakassapa had smiled first. He was one of the Swasti's teachers and a senior disciple who had traveled far on the path. Swasti knew that he could not compare himself to Mahakassapa and the other elders like Sariputta, Moglana, and Asaji. After all, he was still 24 years old. So this is a beautiful chapter that we completed, Treasure of Insight. We will proceed to chapter 52, which is Fields of Merit. The following year, Swasti spent the retreat season at Nigrodha Monastery in Kapilvastu. Buddha had returned to his homeland prior to the retreat. This is the Kapilvastu is the homeland of Buddha. Buddha had returned to his homeland prior to the retreat after hearing about the conflict and unrest between the kingdoms of Sakya and Kolya. Kolya was his mother's native land. Princess Yashodhara was also from Kolya. The two kingdoms were separated by a Rohini river. In fact, the dispute concerned the rights to the river's water. Because of a drought, neither kingdom had enough water to irrigate its fields. Both kingdoms wanted to build a dam in the Rohini in order to have what little water there was. At first, the conflict began as no more than angry words hurled back and forth across the river by farmers. But soon passions escalated and farmers began to throw rocks at each other. Police were sent in to protect citizens, and finally, soldiers were lined up on either side of the river. It looked as if the conflict could erupt into a war at any moment. The Buddha wanted first of all to understand the causes of the dispute. He asked the Sakya generals by the river, and they accused the citizens of Kolya of threatening the lives and properties of Sakya citizens. Then he asked the generals on the Kolya side, and they accused the Sakya citizens of threatening the lives and properties of the citizens of Kolya. Only when the Buddha spoke directly to the local farmers did he learn that the real source of the conflict was the lack of water. Thanks to the close ties with both the Sakya and the Kolya dynasties, the Buddha was able to bring about a meeting between King Mahanama and King Suppabuddha. He asked them to negotiate a quick solution to the crisis because both sides would lose in a war, whether the loss was greater or smaller. He said, Your Majesties, which is more precious, water or human lives? The kings agreed that human lives were infinitely more precious. The Buddha said, Your Majesties, the need for adequate irrigation water has caused this conflict. If pride and anger had not flared up, This conflict could have been easily resolved. There is no need for war. Examine your hearts. Do not waste the blood of your people because of pride and anger. Once pride and anger are released, the tensions that lead to the war will disappear. Sit down and negotiate how the river water can be shared equally with both sides at this time of the drought. Both sides must be assured of an equal amount of water. Thanks to Buddha's counsel, the two sides reached an agreement. Warm and cordial relations were re-established. King Mahanama asked the Buddha to remain and spend the retreat season in Sakya. It was the 15th retreat since the Buddha attained enlightenment. After the Buddha was around, like it was uh, 35 years, he attained his enlightenment at 35, and it was now 15th retreat. So around 50 years, Buddha was his age. After the retreat, Buddha returned south. He spent the 16th retreat season at Alavi, the 17th at Bamboo Forest, 18th at Kolya, and the 19th at Rajgarh. Wherever he, Whenever he stayed at Rajgarh, the Buddha preferred dwelling on Gijakota mountain. Because the peak resembled a vulture, it was called the Vulture Peak. King Bimbisara frequently visited the Buddha on Vulture Peak for Dhamma instruction. He even had steps built into the mountainside that led all the way to the Buddha's hut. He also had there. I think these monasteries will be there, but they will be in a very dilapidated condition. If you see, I've not even been to Sachi, but I've heard, it's very, very bad state because no government would take care of Buddhist sites. So you cannot expect them. Even when I went to Sarnath, I mean, only the temple and all was good, but the other infrastructure around Sarnath was very, very poor. And it's surprising, but this is how it is. He even had steps built into the mountainside that led all the way to the Buddha's hut. He also had small bridges built over the tumbling waterfalls and springs. He liked to leave his carriage at the foot of the mountain and climb up the stone steps. Close by the Buddha's hut was a rock as large as several houses and a clear stream where he could wash his robes and dry them on a smooth rock. The Buddha's hut was constructed of stones gathered on the mountain. The view from the Buddha's hut was magnificent. He especially enjoyed watching the sunsets. Senior disciples such as Sariputta, Uruvela Kasapa, Moglana, Upali, Devadatta, and Ananda also had huts on Vulture Peak. The Buddha's Sangha now had 18 practice centers in and near Rajgarh. In addition to Bamboo Forest and Vulture Peak, some of the centers were Vaibhavarana, Sarpasudika, Saparsantuguha, and Indrasaila Guha. The last two were located in enormous caves. Jivaka, the son of Ambapali and King Bimbisara, was now okay. So Jivaka, who was studying for the medical studies, Ambapali's son, was now a physician, and he lived in a hut close to Varchapi, having become one of the Buddha's closest lay disciples. He was already renowned for his skill in curing diseases that had been fatal in the past. He served as King Bimbisara's personal physician. Jivaka looked after the health of the Buddha and the bhikkhus on the Vulture Peak and at the bamboo forest. Every winter, he organized friends to offer extra robes to the bhikkhus to use as blankets for warmth at night. He offered a robe to the Buddha himself. Jivaka was interested in the prevention of diseases as well as their cure. He suggested a number of basic sanitary measures to the bhikkhus. He suggested that the water taken from the ponds and lakes be boiled before drinking it, that the bhikkhus wash their robes at least once every 7 days, and that more toilets be provided on the monastery grounds. He cautioned not to keep food overnight for consumption on the following day. The Buddha accepted all of Jivaka's suggestions. Robe offering became very popular practice amongst the lay people. One day, Buddha spotted a bhikkhu returning to the monastery with a pile of robes heaped on his shoulder. The Buddha asked him, "How many robes do you have there?" The bhikkhu answered, "Lord, I have 8. Do you think you need that many?" "No, Lord, I do not. I only accepted them because people offered them to me." "How many robes do you think a bhikkhu actually needs?" "Lord, according to my way of thinking, 3 robes are adequate. They are plenty to keep warm on cold nights." "I share your thoughts. I find 3 robes sufficient on cold nights. From now on, let us announce that each bhikkhu will own only one begging bowl and not more than 3 robes. If more than that are offered, the bhikkhu will decline them. The bhikkhu bowed to the Buddha and then walked back to his own hut. One day, while standing on a high hill, the Buddha looked over the fields of rice paddies. He turned to Ananda and said, Ananda, how beautiful are the golden patches of rice that stretch to the horizon. Wouldn't it be nice to sew our robes in the same checkered pattern? Ananda said, Lord, it's a wonderful idea. Sewing bhikkhu's robes in the same pattern as rice fields would be lovely. You have said that a bhikkhu who practices the way is like a fertile field in which seeds of virtue and merit have been sown to benefit both the present and future generations. When one makes offerings to such a bhikkhu or studies and practices with him, it is like it is like sowing the seeds of virtue and merit. When one makes offerings to such a bhikkhu or studies and practices with him, it is like sowing the seeds of virtue and merit. I will tell the rest of the community to sew the future robes in the patterns of rice fields. We can call our robes fields of merit. The Buddha smiled in approval. Okay, so this we stop here and we will continue from here to the for tomorrow. This was page 344. So I hope this reading was useful. It had certain points for you for your practice, and I hope you will implement the practice, and we can all do our implementation, our work, and to whatever extent we can do. And anything someone wants to share or any learning. Thank you so much, Snehaji. Thank you so much. Any learning from your own practice, any question, anything, please feel free to share. In the meanwhile, just let me check. Or feel free to unmute if you want. Deepji, there are various ways. What little that I know of is uh, basically metta is loving kindness or compassion for all beings. So what I've been doing from what I can think of is one thing is the loving kindness meditation that is there. You can do the loving kindness meditation where you basically bring your attention to your friends, to your people who you know. First, you bring your attention to yourself, to then your friends, your family, then to strangers, then to enemies, and then whatever love you have been able to accumulate, you send it to all. That is one practice that you can do. Another practice is from time to time, what I do is what I suggest, what I shared, bringing mind in mind whenever you are like you know when you are mindful, right? First of all, you have to bring mindfulness, and then you can just arise the compassion in you and then spread it. It's like becoming a kind of a mobile phone tower, right? Spreading compassion to everyone, all beings, right? And may they be free from suffering, and may they be at peace. So bringing the compassion, which is like the cultivating that mind of love. So that is definitely another way we can do it on a daily basis for as we go about our day, right? So it enriches ourselves, right? It's like it enriches ourselves, because otherwise the default tendency of the mind is going in the ill will, right? See, there are three things: greed, hatred, delusion. Three root causes of all suffering, all the negative tendencies: greed, hatred, right? It's like a default, it's like set in ours, and delusion. They are the root of all. So hatred includes all the ill will. The mind always, there is this hook that, so there was this one video that I posted on my Hindi channel, that someone didn't look at you, and there is this hatred that arises, and ill will that arises, and the mind keeps going back into that someone didn't look at me and smile. And then the solution that I suggested was that just bring that person's face in your mind, that person's face, which again keeps flashing, right? And then you keep feeling bad. Bring his face. Just recollect the suffering that that person is also going in his life, and then just share. May this person be free of suffering. May this person find peace. right? And it's like Snehaji asked, yes, Snehaji, I'll come to you. Like Snehaji asked this thing about animals, and what if beyond which what I cannot do is just cultivate that compassion, send it to any animal who's suffering, may they be free from suffering, right? So this is some of the ways that I would suggest we can practice dedicatedly loving kindness meditation. Yes. Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Okay, you said saw. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Snehaji, you please ask your question. I will make more, videos on the loving kindness bit as I come across those suttas. So, what exactly Buddha said, what other ways Buddha suggested, I will definitely guide whatever I come through. Presently, I've completed till middle discourses 90. I've finished the videos. I made, they will be released in due time. Yes, Nehaji, you can ask your question. You can unmute or you can ask in chat, whichever way.
Hi, Namabuddha sir. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, I'm doing
Thank you
well.
for this
Thank you.
beautiful session.
Thank you so much.
So actually, I have one question in my mind which is really bothering me from a very long time,
Yes.
and I'm not sure so how to actually frame that question correctly, but I will try my best.
Okay.
So the thing is, as we are following Buddha's path, or maybe any spirituality, trying to be a good person, trying
Yes.
to elevate
Yes.
ourselves,
Yes.
okay. But for example, I will take my life example. So I
Yes.
have a person in my life
Yes.
who is helping me financially, but I'm not
Right.
taking any financial help freely. Okay, there is
Right.
a terms and condition that I will be giving that money back to him.
Right.
Okay, but I am evidently seeing that person is not gathering good karmas at all, at all. Okay, I am guiding him. I am also requesting him to be following the right path, but he
Mm.
has his own thoughts, he has his own probably karmas, or he has his
Mm.
own way of living life. So my question to you, sir, is as for some xyz reason I am forceful to have that person in my life. I cannot ask him to go out as he's helping me, because I'm going through a very bad time right now.
Right.
So but definitely, for sure, he is not collecting good karmas. Am I sharing his karmas, indirectly or unknowingly? Because I am seeing that he is not doing good things. He's very,
Right.
very aggressive, not only with his own parents, with everybody, around, and there are a lot of bad qualities, So I keep requesting him, and I also pray for him, but there is no changes. So I feel sometimes if I am, collecting his karmas or not by any chance, attracting, or maybe, I'm sharing his karmas.
Right, right. No, see, we have to just focus on our conduct, right? Our
Okay.
conduct should be pure, and we can definitely guide the other person. But see, everyone is on their own karmic path, right? So we can only control as much what we can do, right? Even when you talk about within what you can control, within what I can control, that also I have a very little kind of choice, where I can control, because see, lot of things are moving as per a higher law. You can call it law of karma, law of cause and effect, or some higher law. The elements, that all the earth, water, fire, air, all the elements, they are moving and things are happening, right? Because of lot of the things, lot of the past that has been there, and accordingly things are moving. So what I can do in this situation is that I can control my conduct. I can control what is my speech, what is the thoughts that I have in my mind, right? And what are the actions that I do with my body. So mind, speech, body, I can control myself. I can not control the other person. I have to keep my conduct pure. And definitely, there is no such thing like sharing and all. Just we have to keep our conduct pure, and that is the practice. That when things are very difficult, when you come across such things, um, how to, that's the test of our practice, right? That's why the practice has,
Yeah.
right, that tests our practice, definitely tests our practice.
Okay, so we don't share anybody's karmas, right?
No,
So
no, no,
so
no,
that
no,
is my
no, 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 absolutely no. No, we have to just keep our
yes. Okay.
karmas in order, and just take
Hmm.
care of our uh, uh, kind of conduct, right?
Yes, yes, because trying to be mindful, like 100% on a daily basis, just that for some,
The
some
thoughts.
yeah,
It,
the thoughts, and
yeah.
we
It's
we cannot avoid certain people. We want
yeah.
to really
Yes, definitely.
forever.
I agree with
Yes,
you. I agree with you. See, the thing is that,
yes,
I totally resonate with what you are saying is that, definitely there are sometimes we are like stuck. You try
very,
as
very
well
much.
to change things outside. There is this thing, and that definitely at times it works also. There is this thing. Now, I'm
Okay.
just a bit digressing. It's somewhere related to your question, but I'm just digressing. Is this thing
Okay, so
that, in the why Buddha said, there's no Buddha didn't say pujas and rituals and manifestations and these rituals, and I thought about it deeply, and I came across certain passages in my research of the suttas, and I wanted to share it on the WhatsApp group also, but I didn't, because then I thought that I don't want to overload the group with too much information. But the thing is, what happens is that
yes,
things are working, and in the Vedic tradition, what they do is that they treat the elements as deities, like the fire god and and the pujas and the rituals. What they do is that they influence the elements for what is required, like cattle or sun, or all these worldly things. You can
hmm,
definitely influence through various mantras and pujas, and then the new age thing is the manifestation, the
yes,
law of
yes, full on.
attraction, and making
Yes,
vision boards and
it's
everything.
very trendy. Yes.
Yeah, it's very trending. Yeah, and that only works, right? So now the thing is, what it's depending upon what you want. If that is what you want, it works, but it doesn't work always. Why? Because when the karmic forces are so strong, they work for a limited kind of they have a limited, I will say, a limited power. And even if you have a very strong intention and very strong, you do some strong pujas and rituals and everything, yes, for a time being, you will see the change. But problem is, the karma would not finish, right? Because the karma would come back again. There is this gap
Yes,
that gets created, and everything
right.
seems fine. But the unfinished karma that was there will come back later on, right? So now it all depends upon the maturity. Those people come in Buddha's teaching who have suffered enough to realize that I have to free myself from suffering. So my tendency, what has got changed is over time, is that not to get swayed. There is so much all this nonsense around manifestation, and wake up and think about all these things, and
Yes,
your
yes,
reality will change. And
yes.
I have left it. Okay, just keep it aside. I have whatever my karmas are there, it are because I am undergoing my own suffering. So whatever the karmas are there, they are extinguishing. Only thing, important thing is doing the keeping, is like Buddha has said in one of the suttas, that even if you have tears in your eyes and you keep doing good work, that is like how you there are like four ways. So
Wow. Okay,
so
so
even if you have tears in the eyes and you continue your
yes,
work, that is how the good conduct and good everything. And this requires lot of uh, power. This is the power that you get through your mindfulness practice, the meditation practice. Uh, that is where what our work has to be, and it's not an easy path. But the essential
yes.
thing is that in between whatever, now there is this thing that we are totally stuck, and I can totally understand because I have been also in that phase. uh, in that
Thank you,
phase,
sir, for understanding me
yeah,
seriously.
thank you so much. In that phase that we are, we have to just ensure that we just take one day at a time. Our conduct should be good. Okay, we don't want to be very, very nice and all. It's not like that to people and everything. Where constructively we have to do our worldly actions in terms of, taking whatever actions we have to do in our outer world, we have to do. But our thought, speech, and actions by way of body should remain pure, and that is where we don't create new karma. Old karmas get extinguished. And through the practice of meditation and mindfulness, what are happening is the karmas that are there, which would manifest later on, which are there in our unconscious, they start getting cleared, right? And
Right. Yes.
right? So it's like said that the more cushion hours, it's like meditation cushion. The more cushion hours or the more sitting hours you put is how you clear your karma. So yes, we cannot sit for the entire day. We have work to do, but meditation, which will help uh, rouse the energy of mindfulness in us, will help us at least stay sane in this phase where we are stuck, nothing is working, rather than falling for things like this manifestation. I'm not saying that is wrong. See, people at a particular stage need that to take control of their mind and everything. But then at one point you realize that it's not serving anymore, because especially the deep
Yes, true,
karmic
sir.
things, yeah,
Yes,
it doesn't work, right? No matter how much manifestation you do. So
correct.
yeah.
No one can escape their own karmas.
Yeah, yeah, you cannot escape
Yes,
your karmas, and
yes,
just keep our practice going and stay pure in our practice. Keep coming back to the dhamma, keep coming back to the teachings, because that
yes,
teaching,
sir.
that dhamma, that's why we're taking refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. So dhamma, keep Buddha Dhamma, the teachings, and the Sangha is that spiritual community, because then we get motivated that okay, others are also practicing, let me also practice.
Correct, correct.
Is the mountain analogy that we discussed yesterday.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Love that. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Most
Thank you.
welcome, most welcome, most welcome. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or from the practice? Uh, Anything that you are reading which you want to share? I am continuing with my reading of the Buddhist Path by Bhikkhu Chintita. It's a bit of as I told, it's a bit of a technical book, so it's I cannot read it that fast, and the language is a bit difficult. So I'm waiting for that book to finish. Once it gets finished, then I'll pick up an easy book and to continue my reading. Okay, fine. So we close for today and we meet tomorrow then, right? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Namo Buddhaya. Thank you so much for joining.